As the story begins, a house is shown in a desolate location, and a few members of a band arrive there to record their songs while living there. The band's leader becomes insane and kills all of his band mates. A girl from his band was still alive and attempting to flee, but the leader killed her with an axe and later eliminated himself too. He died, and the story is shown after 18 years, with a few members of a band in a studio, and the band leader was named Dave, and the other was a drummer or guitarist. Meanwhile, their manager arrives and inquires about the new song, as well as whether they have created one. The manager was furious because he was dealing with a lot of loss. But Dave tells him not to worry because they will make a new song soon and it will be famous. If you can provide us with a peaceful location, we will send you a new song soon. The next day, the manager's secretary takes the band to a house, which is the same house we saw 18 years ago, where the band leader has killed all of his companions, and the band is terrified to see that house. That house was in a desolate area and was terrible. And the band leader gets scared when he sees upside because he believes someone is looking at him from the window. But then the thing hides behind the curtain, and the band leader wonders what that thing is. The secretary shows them the house as it was recently reopened, and you will have fun making music here. Dave claps there, and the sound echoes, which he likes because it's good for their music, and he says he's ready to work here. Dave hears a voice cutting something while in the house and sees a man cutting a tree outside. He approaches him to inquire about his identity. However, when he moves near him, the man vanishes. On another side, Dave's companion who was repairing the electric wires and then a hand of a soul is shown near him. His companion goes through an electric shock that he immediately dies. They become worried to see this condition of their friend and say we should leave this house, because nothing appears to be in order. Dave says to his companion, we can't move while leaving our job, and his companions agree, and they decide to stay. After some time, they sit outside to eat, and Dave was doing barbecue when he discovered the cut head of his deceased companion in it and became terrified. His group members take care of him. He hears the voice of someone cutting a tree again, and this time he moves to check with a tool, but their neighbor, who was a lady, says to him, I am a huge fan of your band. Furthermore, she claims that I live in your next-door neighbor's house, and that you are welcome to take anything you require from us. Following that, Dave sits down with his friends to compose music, but they couldn't come up with a new tone, and they were all concerned. Dave requests that his companions leave him alone and that I make any new tune while living alone. This idea of Dave also doesn't work, and there was no new tune in his mind. Now at night, Dave was sleeping when his door suddenly opens. He sees the soul of his companion who died in front of him. Meanwhile, a swarm of souls arrives and begins eating their intestines while cutting his abdomen. Dave gets scared to see this and awakes while shouting loudly, but this was just his dream. Dave becomes hungry after waking up at midnight and orders food for himself. A man arrives to deliver the food and is delighted to see Dave, saying, I am a huge fan of yours. I'm also a musician, and I'd like to show you a sample of my music. But Dave makes her flee while ignoring him. Later, after eating, he tries to compose music again, but he hears the voice of water leaking from a tap. When he moves to check in the kitchen, he notices a soul in the tap and becomes terrified. After that, he steps outside to get some fresh air, where he notices a basement and moves inside, where he hears a voice from behind a curtain. Behind a curtain, he discovers an old music recorder that belonged to the band that died in this house 18 years ago. There was a nice tune when he turns the recorder on and he tries to steal it, but it suddenly turns off. When he tries to turn on the music recorder again, he hears the voice from the music recorder, saying, complete this music, and the bulb placed there begins to spew blood. And it bursts unexpectedly, causing Dave falls at a distance. Now that the souls have affected him and gone inside him, he meets his companion when he comes out of the basement, who asks him what he was doing inside. Don't go inside, he says. The next day, Dave gathers his companions and plays that stolen tune for them, lying that he composed it. Now that Dave's companions are attempting to play that tune, someone knocks on their door, and it is that lady who tells them that she is their neighbor, and has brought sweets for them, but Dave asks her to leave because he sees her. Dave's companion takes the sweets and asks the lady not to mind what Dave has said. When the lady stares at Dave, she realizes he is affected by a soul and summons his companion outside. She informs him that Dave is not acting normally and that his condition is not good. Dave was watching that lady while she was telling everything to his companion, and when she saw Dave, she fled without saying anything to his companion. 3 weeks have passed since they began composing the music, and they have completed half of it. Dave summons his companions for a meeting one night. Then he makes a red start there, and it's not just any star, but a demonic star. He shows them the 5 corners of the beginning and says, "These are us. And this star means that if we work together, we will surely complete our tune." One of his companions refuses him and says, "I'm tired right now." Dave becomes enraged upon hearing this. Then he yells at him, but his companion says, "Don't get angry, we'll do what you say." The next morning, Dave's companions discuss what happened to him and why he is acting strangely. Dave, on the other hand, arrives and apologizes to his companions. They've all forgiven him, and they're back to work. They were overjoyed because they had completed their 27-minute song. The delivery boy returns to their home, this time with his music cassette, which he wants Dave to listen to. The man arrives at their house with food, but another man cuts his neck with scissors. Many souls were working together to make this happen. Dave and his companion open the door to find food outside but no delivery boy. They all had food, but the meat was undercooked, but Dave was enjoying it. His companions were taken aback to see him in this state. The next day, the secretary returns home, who has given them this house. One of Dave's companions offers her sweets, but she declines, saying, "I don't like sweets." She then inquires as to where they obtained the sweets. "Our neighbor lady has given us those sweets," according to Dave's companion. According to the secretary, that lady is not nice, so avoid her. In the meantime, Dave's companion discovers something written under the plate. When the secretary reads that word, he is taken aback and asks, "What did you just say?" Dave's companion ignores this until Dave arrives and informs the secretary that their work is going well. They are now composing their song. Then one of Dave's associates becomes irritated and walks out, throwing his guitar. He starts doing barbecue, but Dave becomes enraged when he sees this. He throws his head into the barbecue as a result. His face is burned, and he dies instantly. Many souls are shown behind Dave, causing him to do this. While walking outside, Dave's companions notice that the delivery boy's head has been severed. Dave's companions are terrified when they see it. Dave snatches the phone from his companion and asks, "Are you crazy? Our song is nearly finished. We will notify everyone once everything has been completed. If we tell the cops, we'll all be in trouble." Then he summons them to practice. After some practice, Dave begins eating the meat of his companion, whom he has killed. His companions have witnessed everything, and they are wondering what happened to Dave. One of the companions informs me that Dave has moved into the basement. He has been performing these acts since he has come out of the basement. Meanwhile, they hear the lady's voice who told about Dave that there is an affect of a soul. She claims there was a band in this house 18 years ago where you stayed, and the band leader practiced black magic. He also worships devils and has created a book out of human flesh. He used to give the blood of animals to that book, which is why he has killed all of his companions. He then ended himself. Furthermore, the lady claims that the soul of that leader has imprisoned your friend Dave. He's doing everything he can to resurrect that book. The song you're working on is linked to that book, and if it's finished, there will be demons in our world. They are now planning how to prevent that soul from entering this world. First, they return the phones that Dave had taken from them. Meanwhile, that lady and one of Dave's associates enter a room. Dave, who was hiding under their bed, ends them by turning on his chainsaw. Dave's 2 companions, on the other hand, enter the basement. They discover the book beneath the animal that had been attached there. They begin reading that book in order to learn how to return souls who have arrived in this world to their world. Meanwhile, Dave's companion arrives, and he arrives so that Dave does not discover that his companions have gone to find the book. Dave says to his companion, "Let's finish our song." He is terrified of Dave, so he completes his song. Then Dave throws a steel ring at him, severing him into 2 pieces. Likewise, he passes away. Dave separates all the dead bodies so there will be no evidence. Then he notices his 2 companions who were fleeing while he was grabbing the book. He chased them to hold them, but they forbid him to chase them. Then they begin reading the book, which causes the water in the swimming pool to turn green. Dave was telling his friends not to stop reading this book. When they completed the book, the soul of Dave has moved. Dave slips and falls into the water. Dave's companions pull him out of the water, but he has no memory of what happened to him. He pukes there. As he ate his friend, the flesh was coming out from him. Meanwhile, his friend's soul arrives, and Dave competes with him. He beats him, and all the souls of those who died 18 years ago have arrived there. They are now pouring blood into that book. As a result, the souls return to their world. Dave's friends have taken him out and ask him to wait for them. They claim we will arrive in our van. They move near the van, and don't find the key in the van. One of Dave's associates goes under the van to start the van via the wire. Meanwhile, Dave's manager and secretary arrive and inquire whether or not Dave has finished his song. The secretary now moves to Dave's other two companions. One of the companions who went under the car died as a result of being crushed under the car. The secretary ended the other while stabbing him. Because Dave finished the song, that's why the soul of that leader was still in Dave, it didn't leave him. I'm interfering here to inform you that Dave's manager was the Devil King. That's why they have killed his remaining companions, because they want Dave to finish the devilish song from the beginning, so that the devils can return to spread destruction in our world. The story after few days is shown at the end of the film. Dave became famous after releasing his song. Millions of people were waiting for him. Meanwhile, Dave's manager approaches him, and he asks him to inform his fans that he will meet them shortly. Dave moves his face upside, smirking maniacally. Leader's soul was still in Dave, and this is the film's final scene.